Hi, everyone. I'm back with our look at Ephesians, the book of Ephesians, and I'm in Ephesians 6, the second half of Ephesians 6, where it talks about the armor of God. I'm going to tell you, I once took an entire Bible study, like 6-7 weeks on the armor of God. So there's a lot there. So we're not going to take 6 or 7 weeks, that's for sure. But when I did my Bible study, I dug out my old Bible study book that I went and used, and it's called The Armor of God. I don't know if you can see it. It's by Priscilla Shirer. It was a video study, and it was very, very good. If anybody ever wants to just do a study on the armor of God, it's well worth it, really. But we're going to look at it today. I'm just going to take it piece by piece and just, I guess, tell you some things I think about it. So one of the things that I did get from the book was a picture. And again, I don't know if you can see this. It's a picture of a kind of a Roman soldier. And it goes through, this goes through all of the different parts of the armor and likens them to a Roman soldier. So you need to know that, of course, when Paul was writing this, it was the Romans that he was kind of thinking about in a way, that was the armor of the times, was what he was describing, but then he was putting it into spiritual terms. So I think if you can see in this picture, the things that are shown out in the picture is the belt of truth, the breastplate of righteousness, the sword of the Spirit, the helmet of salvation, the shield of faith, and feet shod with peace. So those are the different things that are here. So we'll see what the gospel or what the epistle says, and we're starting in chapter 6, verse 10. And this is really how he's summing up all of this. He's been talking this whole time about all these ideal kind of mutual submission relationship things and how the church should function and how a marriage should function and how you should function as a parent and as a friend and as a mother and all these kinds of things. Really, now he's going to sum it all up, and basically he's telling us it's not going to be easy, which we already know because life is like that sometimes, right? So he starts with saying in verse 10, a final word: be strong in the Lord and in his mighty power. Put on all God's armor so that you will be able to stand firm against all the strategies of the devil. When I read that, I kind of stop and I say, first of all, put on all God's armor. There's armor there, but we don't always take advantage of all of it. He's encouraging these Ephesians to look at all that God is giving us to protect us and to keep us safe, and don't just piecemeal it. Put it all on, put it all on. And then secondly, it says, so you will be able to stand firm against the strategies of the devil. That means there really is a devil. There really is evil in the world. And the devil is setting out different traps and strategies that he knows will affect us. And the strategy that might be most effective against me is not going to be necessarily the strategy that he would use on you, because he tailors it to different people of what he knows your biggest weakness is, or your Achilles heel, kind of like, In this book, Priscilla Shirer quotes from the New American Standard Version, which is a very good word-for-word translation. And here she says, put on the full armor of God so that you will be able to stand firm against the schemes of the devil. So schemes, strategies, different things that are being planned just specifically for you. You have to be able to stand firm against that. So this is verse 12. And I really like this verse because it opens up your eyes. Don't be naive. That's what this verse is saying. Don't be naive. Listen. For we are not fighting against flesh and blood enemies. but against evil rulers and authorities of an unseen world, against mighty powers in this dark world, and against evil spirits in the heavenly places. Whoa. Whoa. I mean, I'm fighting against my own human nature. I'm sure you are too. But then there's all this other spiritual warfare that's going on. Satan wants to use every way he can get me to turn away from God and turn towards evil. There are schemes, there are strategies, there are evil powers, this says. We're not fighting against just other human beings, or not even fighting against the flesh and blood of our humanity. We are fighting against evil rulers and authorities of an unseen world. And a dark world, mighty powers in the dark world, and evil spirits in the heavenly places. This is what the New American Standard says. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the powers, against the world forces of this darkness, against the spiritual forces of wickedness in the heavenly places. So, it's not just our own human nature that we're fighting against. There is a war going on. And whether we want to admit it or not, or whether we sense this, it is going on. I think as humans, at least for me, I'm very egocentric. It's all about me, all about me, all about me, Like, why did it have to rain today? I wanted to do da 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 da. But probably some farmer is going, yay, it's raining today. Everything that happens, we kind of filter it through our own perceptions, And this is saying, open up your eyes. There's more going on than just you. There's a lot going on here. So that is verse 12. Okay, verse 13. Therefore, now here we go again with Paul's therefore. He sets it up. He says, hey, pay attention. You need to stand firm. There's strategies of the devil. There's evil things going on in a spiritual level that you might not be aware of. And take all that into account, he says, therefore. In other words, once you know all that, here's what you're supposed to do. Put on every piece of God's armor so you will be able to resist the enemy in the time of evil. Then, after the battle, you will be standing firm. Stand your ground. And now he's going to list them. Putting on the belt of truth and the body armor of God's righteousness. For shoes, put on the peace that comes from the good news so that you will be fully prepared. In addition to all of these, hold up the shield of faith to stop the fiery arrows of the devil. Put on salvation as your helmet and take the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God. Pray in the Spirit at all times and on every occasion. Stay alert and be persistent in your prayers for all believers everywhere. Prayer is kind of that that cover over all of this armor. It's not listed as maybe one of the actual pieces of armor, but it's the ultimate shield, as it were. So the first thing he mentions is the belt of truth. And I had a couple of things I wrote down. What did I write down about this? Because I was thinking of this belt of truth because I wasn't always a person living in the truth. I was fooling myself, let's say, about a lot of things. And once I got to a point that I recognized that in myself, I decided that I was going to live in the truth. And it was a big decision for me to live in the truth. I wasn't going to close my eyes to what was really happening. I wasn't going to try to pretend to be something I'm not. I wasn't going to wear a mask in front of people anymore. I wasn't going to sugarcoat things or say to people what I thought they wanted me to say instead of what I really felt. In a lot of ways, as I grew and matured in the Lord, I decided to live in the truth. So truth is extraordinarily important to me personally. Now, here they're talking about the truth of God. And that is foundational, this belt of truth. Think about this: Satan's biggest lie, biggest trait is that he's a liar. The Bible tells us Satan is a liar. His biggest tool that he uses with us is lying and deception. And I was thinking about some of the lies that could be told to people that they would live with and buy into, as it were. And the things that I wrote down were, lies that you aren't good enough, that you're not valuable, that God could never forgive you for what you've done. Lies that encourage you to minimize faults and not face up to them. Or that if you're not, that if you're following the way of God, to say, well, but that one isn't so bad. That thing isn't so bad. The lie about making other people's offensive seem bigger than they really are. If you sit and stew on something and I can't believe she said that to me. Well, she's, you can build it up. Satan can help you deceive yourself into believing that it's a whole lot more important than it really is. How about the idea of minimizing people's needs? That's a lie or a deception that we buy into. Well, I don't need to give money to that. They're doing okay. That kind of thing. How about the idea that a deception that gives you the feeling like you're in control of something? It's an illusion of control. God's really in control. But Satan plays into our pride by making us feel like we're pretty powerful. We can control all that, and we don't have to turn to God. That's a deception or a lie from the devil. Or hiding the consequences from us, like thinking, well, nobody's going to know about this. I'm going to just go ahead and do this. There won't be any repercussions from, kind of talking yourself into doing something that is wrong. And a lot of times that's Satan's way of deceiving us. Encouraging us to indulge in fantasies. Like, I don't have to I don't have to work hard. Someday I'm just going to win the lottery, or fantasies about other people, like everyone's happy except for me. Everyone has a perfect life except for me. Or escaping into different fantasies. There's nothing wrong with books, nothing wrong with movies, but if you use those as an escape from your reality, then after a while, it's not healthy. And I think Satan loves it when we go overboard with something, because then we really can deceive ourselves about it. Food is a good example of that. Food is a great thing. It's healthy for us. But boy, when we overdo it, and then we tell ourselves, well, we can't help it. I can't help it. That's a lie. That's a deception. That's the kind of thing Satan loves. He can work with that. That's a starting point for him. Or another thing is that I thought of for a deception is making worldly things so important, more important than the real priorities of life: God, family, love, that kind of thing. To make you think, well, if I had more money, I'd be happy. If I had a bigger house, I'd be happy. These are deceptions that, if you could buy into those, Satan can really use that, or making you believe, actually, that spiritual warfare is nonsense. That's a big lie. That's a big lie, because the Bible tells us it goes on. So therefore, we have to believe that it does. But Satan would have us believe, don't worry about that. It's not a big deal. This is like, this is stuff that's like, it's almost embarrassing sometimes for us to talk about it, because we think people are going to think we're kind of crazy if we talk about spiritual warfare. Satan loves that. That's a deception that he can work with, So Satan's biggest tool, lies and deception. So the truth, this belt of truth, is the first armor that we can put on to protect us from the lies of Satan. And you think about the belt. Some versions say, gird yourself with the belt of truth. I love that version because it reminds me of the word girdle. Gird and girdle is that stability that's through the center. It's kind of like when they talk about your core. Get your core, strong so that will support everything. Or you can think of even like when you go to Home Depot, or you go to, you see a UPS guy. A lot of times they'll wear those lumbar braces, around the middle. And that's when they pick up heavy things, that gives them that core support. That is what the belt of truth does for us spiritually. It gives us protection, and it gives us stability and foundation. It's funny because I always would think of the feet as being the foundation, but really, if you look at all the things, all the research about getting fit and all of that, it's core. It's all about core. So that belt of truth is right in the middle, and it's going to give you that stability. And of course, the thing about the truth that I was thinking about is, first of all, you have to know the truth. I mean, you can know the truth, obviously, by studying God's Word, going to church, listening to other believers, listening to the minister or priest, like that's the way you know the truth about God. Especially when you read the Bible yourself and you read it to find out about God, to get to know him better. Let's put it that way. To get to know his mercy, his justice, his forgiveness, his grace. You got to know all that stuff. You got to know the truth about God and what God likes and what he's yearning for and how much he loves you, all that stuff. And obviously, once you know it, you have to believe it. I mean, that's faith, right? I mean, you have to have faith. So you got to know and you got to believe. That's first of all with this belt of truth. You got to know what the truth is, and then you got to believe what the truth is. But then you also have to kind of commit to live in the truth. You have to put the belt on. In other words, it's one thing to know the truth. It's another to believe the truth. It's another to live in the truth. And that's when he's saying, put on the belt of truth. I think that's really important, that we need to utilize it, utilize it. And for me, at least, I know the way that I can do that is just daily asking God to, renew that, remind me of the truth, and renew the fact that you want me to live in the truth. In other words, I can't really do it in my power, but I can do it in his power. And I think that is really important when it comes to any of these pieces of armor, really, that it's not that I do it myself. It's that these are gifts of God, and I ask for God's strength to utilize them, because that's really pretty important. So the belt of truth is the foundation of all the armor, even though we think of it as just, a little skinny thing. Don't think of it like a fashion belt. Think of it like a big lumbar brace or a big girdle, girding the center of you with support and stability and protection and strength. There is power in the truth. There's power in the truth, because when we're deluding ourselves or deceiving ourselves, the truth is not in us. And eventually we're going to take a fall. So I love this idea of the belt of truth. I think it's a great, great idea, and such a simple thing to know that the truth can be your foundation. The truth about God, the truth about Jesus, the truth about how much he loves me, the truth about the fact that I'm forgiven, the truth that I'm valuable. All these things are part of that belt of truth. That's the first piece of armor that you put on. So I'm going to stop there and get into another couple of pieces of armor the next time. So until then, stand on the truth and have a great day.